Thing. We're live, Kevin.
Hey, great. How are you, Levi?
Excellent.
How's the weather in Portland?
It's a beautiful sunny day, actually, right now.
It is overcast and getting ready to rain. We're under flood watch here in Atlanta. And
Oh,
that
man.
doesn't matter. We're here to do retouching, sponsored by Perfectly Clear. And I'm really excited about this because we have a drawing, don't we?
We sure do. We've got a drawing for a complimentary license of Perfectly Clear, which is just a powerful tool for making your pictures better.
Demonstrating that today and how I use it. Also, we have a chat pod. Would you show our viewers how to use that, please?
Definitely. Let me quickly share my screen. And to enter the drawing for the complimentary license of Perfectly Clear, you just want to go into the press play on the Google Plus event page. And then right here at this little grid, you'll see the Q&A button right there. And just clicking that brings up the Q&A section where you can press this green button and ask a question of us. And we'll get that in real time on our screen, and we'll pop back and forth with questions. And you can ask Kevin questions.
You're going to read questions so that everybody hears them, right?
That's right.
Great.
That's right. I will restate, and you will regale us with your wisdom.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And Kevin, I mean, if you guys don't know Kevin Ames, he is a full-time commercial photographer in Atlanta, Georgia, and he's been making pictures for a little while. And
just a minute or two.
Yeah, just a minute or two. And he's one of the guys who not only makes a living as a full-time photographer, but is also a powerful, personable, and generous instructor. And I'd encourage you to join any of his classes. And Kevin, you'll be at Imaging USA next weekend.
I'm wandering the floor. I'm not teaching this year, but I'll be in the expo floor. And I believe this is kind of a new announcement. I think we're going to be doing a photo walk. I've got the permit process started to use Centennial Olympic Park. I should find out later this afternoon. Follow Levi and I on Twitter. I'm at Ames Photo. That's AMESPHOTO. And you are at Levi Sim, right?
At Photo Levi, right there on my
at Photo Levi.
Yep.
So follow us on Twitter, and we'll keep you posted on the photo walk. But we're tentatively looking at meeting at Centennial Olympic Park at 4:30. Now, there's some other exciting news that our viewers are going to want, and that is we have a new book out. So I'm going to share my screen. Are you ready for me to do that, Levi?
I am ready for you to do that. And this is an exciting book, and we're really glad that Drobo, in this case, has helped us provide this book for you. And we've got another book coming up shortly all about portraiture, and that one's sponsored by Perfectly Clear, and that should be released in just a little while. And we'll keep you posted on that one on Photo Focus. But here's our current book.
Right, and this is getting organized in Lightroom, and it's really well laid out. Here's some of my images as we go through the library module, and it really talks about a lot of different things, and I think it's very easily understood. And I'm going to want to go back to the cover again, because my fellow authors, my fellow Photo Focus authors have really contributed a lot. The only reason my name's first is because my last name starts with an A.
That's
and
right.
It's all in alphabetical order, except whoever alphabetized it doesn't realize that M comes before. Anyway, so Nick Minori, Vanelli, everybody knows him. Levi, Rob Sylvan, and myself have all contributed to this book. And of course, under the watchful guidance of our publisher, Rich Harrington. So shall we get started?
Yes, please. Let's see how you are going to utilize. Well, and you're going to show us how we use Lightroom, Perfectly Clear, Photoshop, and you're going to teach us how to go through.
We're going to walk all the way through this. So the first part is proofing, and when I do a shoot, when I'm working with a model, I don't use Perfectly Clear for the proofs because the models already know what they look like. But when I'm working with a real live human being like Terry here, I'm going to run Perfectly Clear on it in order to just smooth the skin out a little bit and brighten it and make make her feel really good when she looks at the website of proofs. Now, we're not going to build a website today. And Levi has invited me to join him and Rob Sylvan in a future Lightroom hangout where I'll demonstrate how to build proofing websites using Lightroom. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these images. I'm going to press Shift Tab to eliminate the sidebars. So Command A selects all of the images. Then, and you might want to check this on yours, go to Preferences, and under Presets, make sure this checkbox is not checked. If you're used to storing your Lightroom catalog on an external hard drive, and you have this checked so your presets go with you, if you're moving it from machine to machine, your plugins won't be there.
Oh yeah,
so
that's a great tip.
Uncheck this and your plugins will show up. So then you can go to Export. So File, Export, and the export dialog shows up, and just choose. You'll have email, hard drive, and of course the ever popular CD and DVD, which everybody uses now. But Lightroom's going to be 10 years old in February, so a lot of things have been kept that wouldn't be there normally now.
That's right.
So go to Athentech Perfectly Clear, and let me walk you through this. You can pick the preset that you want to use right here. I'm going to use Beautify because it does exactly that. As it says right here, it works wonders on portraits of people, and it automatically scans each face. And I think that's really important. So no matter what angle Terry is at, or whether I've moved in a little bit or pulled back, Perfectly Clear is going to analyze her skin tone and her face, and it's going to optimize her look.
It's incredible how it just works automatically that way.
Yeah, there's a huge amount of mathematics that goes along underneath the plugins interface, which you're looking at here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to add this to a catalog, and I'm going to choose to put it in a new subfolder. So let me go to where I'm going to keep this. I'm going to put it in, and if you're curious about all of these numbers, do download the free book. It's free through Valentine's Day, and it'll show you how I do my organization. So 2887 is the serial number, and TERRI, Terry's Proofs. So that's where it's going to go, and I'll click Choose. I'm going to make JPEGs full quality, but I'm going to downsize them. 2048 on the longest size is all I really need. No extra sharpening, no watermarking, because again, this is a commercial client. I've already been paid for it. Mm-hmm. I'll just click Export.
And this is you're sharing them to a private portion of your website.
Correct.
This isn't for public consumption at this point.
No, as a matter of fact, it's not even on my personal website. It's on another one that is very much anonymous.
Right, right.
So what's happening now is you'll see this bar right here, and Lightroom is processing each of the raw files individually through Perfectly Clear. It takes about 7 seconds an image on a reasonably robust machine, and that gives you a set of really beautifully done proofs that you can upload to the web. And I'm going to actually compare Terry's final pick, since this job is already complete. I'll compare her final pick for you with the one that Perfectly Clear did, and you'll get an idea of the before and after. So do we have any questions in the pod yet, Levi?
We do. A quick one just popped up from Dana, and she just wanted to ask one more time, where can we find the ebook on the library module for Lightroom?
Very, very good question. And what I'll do is I'll just pop over to
we also have
window.
Yes. We also have people weighing in across the world. Hello, all. Mike Thompson, Alan Gale, Dana. Thank you guys for joining us.
So go to photofocus.com, and right down here is the free ebook. Click on it. You can either download it as a PDF, which is what I was showing you, or you can get it in an EPUB format for iBooks. It will also be available for free on the iTunes music, on the iBook store.
Yes, and it's already on the iBook, so you could go to. Um, in fact, I think it's the #1 selling book right now on iTunes.
As well it should be.
As well, I mean, it is free at this point, but yes, it's all over there. So I hope that helps, Dana. And we've got it on Twitter, we've got it on Facebook, it's on Google Plus. If you're out there, just look for Photo Focus, and it'll have been in just the last few days of posts.
So are there any other questions at this point, Levi?
Not right now. Not right now. So these are still cooking in the.
These are still cooking. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop over to Bridge and just kind of give people an idea of what's happening. I think. Actually,
Okay.
no, let's not do that because we're almost done here.
It's almost done. And how many pictures have we selected right now?
Let's see. Shift tab and 25. So it doesn't take very long to go through these. You can see right here that it's going through there, and it's created this folder in the library module in the imported images in the catalog. I've actually got the subfolder, so it's adding those pictures as we go along. Well, now I happen to know that Terry's favorite is 155 right here, so I'm going to choose by file name, and what we're going to be able to see. Let's see, 155. Here we go, and it hasn't decided to show us the JPEGs yet. It's going to wait till it's finished processing.
Excellent.
And it's only got that far to go.
Great. One more quick question. Apparently there's a storm somewhere wherever Lars is, and the internet is tagging in and out. This is recorded, and so you can watch this anytime on photofocus.com. It will be recorded in the post there, and which is currently the top left post if you go to photofocus.com. So it is recorded for you, and you can watch it anytime and go back and watch it all again too. Hey, my dad weighs in and says the book is pretty good.
Cool. Thanks, Dad. So it says export with perfectly clear is completed successfully, and the JPEGs are going to show up.
And we were kind of twiddling our thumbs during that time while those were cooking, but
Sure.
we could continue using Lightroom and doing anything else, during a normal workday.
Right. So let's go back to the file names. And now it's refreshed. So, well, Levi, in the rehearsal, it worked just fine.
I think, well, if we click on the parent folder, where'd it take us to?
Well,
There we go.
Okay, so here come the JPEGs. And of course, it's building previews.
It's building previews because they're new imports.
Right. I think the reason it did it is because I imported it in the catalog. If I had imported these separately, they would have appeared in the folder. So let's see, here we go. Oh, I know why, because I was in the wrong place. I was in a collection. My bad.
Oh, I got you. Okay. And what I like about this too is that
right?
Say that again.
No matter how much you rehearse.
That's right. There's always something. And one of the things that we maintain as we use a plugin from Lightroom, like Perfectly Clear, it keeps our metadata. So your stars and all the camera information are still maintained, even though we've just done an outside edit. So the 5-star image is here. Your new JPEG still has 5 stars on it too.
Right. And as soon as it catches up, and I'll tell you right now, I've got 500,000 pictures in this catalog. So that's why it's probably a little tiny bit slow. So here's the original. Here's the CR2 right out of the camera. And here's the perfectly clear image. So I'm going to click on the first one, hold down the command key. If I were using Windows, I'd hold down the control key. And then I'm going to press N for the survey mode. That's this button right here. And Shift tab to hide the sidebars. And you can see the difference instantly. And I've done nothing. I've done nothing other than run a plugin. So this is the power of perfectly clear for proofing. Terry's going to see this image right here, and she's going to love it. And then when I get through with my work, it will be a little more refined than this. But this is done with the raw file out of the camera and no interference on my part other than running the plugin. So I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And I mean, look, it's smoothed her skin, brightened her teeth, brightened her eyes. My favorite thing is that dark circles under her eyes.
Right. And
Just
we're going to get into that. I'm going to
it's
actually
terrific.
demonstrate some of that.
Excellent.
What I want to do now is let's just go back to the grid mode, and I'm going to deselect the JPEG, and I'm going to go to the raw file. Let's just go through a quick edit session. And I prefer to work with smart objects. So I'm going to open this as a smart object, which is my original raw file, and that will open up in Photoshop. So let's just pop over to Photoshop real quick.
When would you do this kind of thing now, Kevin? When would you go into Photoshop with it?
As soon as she makes her final pick, which this one happens to be, then I'm ready to go into Photoshop to do my editing.
Excellent.
And
So
the reason is, Levi,
those quick proofs were just so automatic and fast.
right. But there are things that, and for most people, that would be fine. I think I want to refine my image more. Let's put it that way.
Definitely. Yeah.
What I want to show you, and here in Photoshop, I'm going to reset the workspace to essentials so people can see everything that you would normally see in Photoshop. So here's the raw file indicated by this smart object logo. And I'm going to select everything because if I needed to darken something down, or if I needed my original raw file, here it is. If I double click on it, it opens right up in Camera Raw, and I can do whatever I want to do. So if I want to darken some areas to do a vignette or something like that, or if I need something to be brighter, I've got all that control right here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very rarely use it, but if I ever need it, it's there. So Command A selects the entire image. That would be under the select menu, select all. And then I'm going to create a new layer. So layer, new, via copy. That's Command J on Mac, Control J on Windows. And I'm going to call this layer Retouch. And I've heavy-handed on the Shift key.
I'm the same way. My left hand goes faster than my right.
I don't know why that is, because I'm right-handed, but I'm left-eyed. So who knows? I'm all messed up.
Interesting. Yeah.
So let's blow this up to 100%. So View, and we're going to choose 100%, which is Command or Control 1. And really all the work wants to be done at least 100%. Now, I'm not going to do this really here more than just one or two to show, but I am going to go into the spot healing brush, and I'm going to get a smaller brush. Now I'm using a Wacom tablet, an Intuos Medium Pro, and I'm just going to come down right here on the hair, and it does a really good job of blending the background back in. So I come in and give her a haircut to get rid of the flyaways.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
A lot of people use the clone stamp tool, and that would look like this. So I'll go into the clone stamp tool and get a little bit larger. The stamp tool's over here. I'm using a lot of keyboard shortcuts. So you can come in and do this, but you can see it causes a little bit of an issue.
Right, the gradient
blending
across.
the background. You want to be real careful. You want to use a really soft brush. So I'll hold down the Option and then the Control key. You can see the hardness there is 85%. Well, I want to use a really soft brush, so I'll take the hardness to 0% and Command or Control Z and start over again. And that's going to give a soft edge to her haircut. Now, I know that everybody thinks that this looks really bad, and it does. So I'll go back to the healing brush and get a little bit larger brush and use that to blend the background in. And if the content aware doesn't do it, because really there's no difference in the content, just in the tone, go to the regular healing brush. Again, get a larger brush. I'm using the right bracket key to make it bigger. And hold down the Option or the Alt key to sample, and then I'm just going to go over this to blend the edge. So if you
Excellent.
use the clone stamp tool, it's a two-step process.
Right.
Now, blemish it.
So somebody else asked in relation to that, Jay is asking, would you ever use the patch tool for it? He feels that might be really quick.
I don't think I have enough control over again, I'm not worried about speed. I'm worried about doing a really great job. So I don't think I've never been able to get the patch tool to do work that I don't have to go back and retouch again using something.
So the spot healing brush is
experience, and that's not to disparage the patch tool in any way, shape, or form. So I'm going to go back, and here's a tip for our viewers. I have gone into preferences and eliminated the shift key. In the way Photoshop comes to you in preferences, Photoshop preferences, and I believe it's under general. Let's see, where is it? I didn't mean to go, is it an interface? Is that where it is? Anyway, there's a place where you can find, use the shift key for auto tool switch. Tools, that's where it'll be. So right here, if you uncheck this one right here, you can stop using the shift key to change tools. The keyboard shortcut for the healing brush is J. So I just keep pressing J until I see the spot healing brush.
Oh, otherwise you have to press Shift J to cycle through the tools.
Right. So.
Excellent.
Yeah. And then I'm going to take out the obvious blemishes, because perfectly clear, if I run it heavy enough to take out the obvious blemishes, the downside to that is I'm going to get a certain amount of too much plastic skin.
Right.
And we don't want that. That's not what perfectly clear is designed to do. And it can be as heavy as it needs to be. It also has shine reduction, but I'm going to do some basic shine reduction here. And to do that, I'm going to go back into just the regular healing brush. And I'm going to Option click to pick this area of clear skin and get a smaller brush. I'm just going to go over this tip of her nose right here. Now that doesn't look very good. It looks too flat. The point to that highlight right there is to give the shape to the tip of the nose. Here it looks flat. So I'm just going to go to Edit, Fade Healing Brush, and the last stroke, I can change the opacity.
I didn't know that.
Type in 50%, and you can see now, you see where a little bit of that comes back? So watch, Command Z, Control Z in Windows. It looks flat, and there's 50%. So it's no longer as shiny as it was.
Oh, that's great.
So
and that was under the edit. Cool.
Yeah, it's a really good technique for that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go in again, and you can either use the spot healing brush or the regular healing brush. If you're using the regular healing brush, it samples tone and texture. So you want to make sure that you resample, particularly if you're using a really wide open lens, a big aperture lens, and things go out of focus. You don't want to heal sharp areas over soft ones. And another thing I want to take, and I want to come in and do, a little bit right here on the neck on these lines. Because again, I don't want to run perfectly clear so heavy that, yeah, there we go, that it obscures this. I still want a little bit of texture in the skin. And Brad, if you're listening, Brad Malcolm is the owner of Perfectly Clear and one of the amazing engineers that develop these algorithms. I still want noise. I want an add noise feature so I can put a little bit of texture back in. Well, I'm just putting it out to the public.
Yes, absolutely.
There we
go. We don't smooth plasticness isn't natural looking.
Right. Now, here where the hair is, and I'm a hair freak. I'm going to correct hairs. So I'm going to go back to the spot healing brush. And do you see where this line comes down here? The line of her cheek. If I start right in the center and go back and forth, usually, and of course it didn't do it this time, but usually, all right, if it's going to be that way, we'll try it another way. Usually it will it will take the hair out without
Because you cross the line.
breaking
And
the chin. Yeah.
Interesting.
But here what's happening is the spot healing brush is reaching out farther than I want it to. So I'm just going to go to the regular healing brush because there's more than one way to do things in Photoshop. And I'm going to sample right here on the edge. Right here. And then I'm just going to heal up and back over. And that solves it right there.
If you had to do this on all of those proofs,
oh my gosh,
you can't make a living.
I wouldn't get anything done.
Right, right.
Now, the next thing are these parentheses right here.
I like the parentheses. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
I do too, but I'm not really totally happy with them.
Right. I mean, it's a good way to describe it. I like that.
Well, that's what they are. That's my technical term for them, Levi. And you can use the spot healing brush here. But see, this doesn't look real. If I take this out completely,
oh yeah,
it doesn't look real. But again, if we go into that secret fade healing brush and put it down, I'm just typing a 5 and a 0. See, it brings that back just a little bit. So here's the without the fade, there's the fade, and here's the original.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You can see that she doesn't want to not have it there. She just doesn't want it as pronounced.
That's a great tool.
I'm going to just take some of these lines out. And we're not going to spend much more time on this. And I'm going to bring some of these laugh lines in just a little bit. I'm not going to get rid of all of them because that's not who she is. And she's saying, oh, yes, it is. Yes, I don't have any of those.
You're right.
But
when they say they want to look 20 years younger, we don't really want them looking 20 years younger.
Well, when I delivered the image to her, I got back a marvelous email and it said, oh my God, you're a miracle worker. So I like happy clients.
Yes.
So you kind of get an idea, and I'm not going to spend really any more time on this at all. So now I have my retouch layer. I'm going to duplicate this layer, layer, new, layer via copy, and I'm going to call it perfectly clear. And then I'll go to the filter menu. And when you install perfectly clear, you're not going to find perfectly clear anywhere in the filter menu. You're going to go to their parent company, Athentech Imaging, and choose perfectly clear.
Right. While that's loading, Kevin.
Yeah.
We had a question from Hartmut. He asked, did when you imported your pictures into Lightroom, did you have any presets running, or was this the raw image to begin with?
Yes, there's a preset running. What I do on that is I give 100% sharpening, and the amount of 100. I also use the chromatic aberration fix and the automatic lens adjustment for the lens that I'm shooting with.
But nothing that's really adjusting the picture.
No, I do that all with a color checker ahead of time.
Excellent.
As a matter of fact, if we pop really quick back into Lightroom, and here's the original. So right up here at the very top is the gentleman that commissioned it, and I'm sure he's going to be excited that I'm using this picture. So I use this color checker chart to set everything else, and I already know what the exposure is, and I can give you the exposure. Just slip over into the develop module very quickly, and the exposure is f11 at a ISO 100 at a, let's see, what's that, 100th of a second. So I just, anytime I move the light, and I move the light for every person, I take a new light reading, get it to f11, and that way I know everything's balanced and color corrected. That's why the backgrounds are consistent from subject to subject.
Excellent.
Okay, so I think that answers, was it Jay's question?
Hartmut. Hartmut. I'm sorry if I'm slaughtering your name.
You're not slaughtering my name. Now,
not yours, Kevin. You're good.
Here is something that you want to know. Perfectly Clear's preview over here doesn't like ProPhoto RGB.
Right. From Photoshop, it shows us the
So this preview is not accurate, so ignore it. It just shows you where you are if you zoom in, and it's a way to move around. But if you were in sRGB, which is what most printers use, this will be the proper color. But I don't want anybody to think that there's something crazy going on here. There's not. It's that I prefer to work in Pro Photo because it's got the maximum amount of colors, and I can always dumb it down to go to sRGB or CMYK for the printing press.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if I go to the presets, there's Beautify, Beautify Plus. It's always going to be one of these two. I'm not going to have to worry about fixed dark because I've done that using the color checker. And details, I've already handled that pretty much with the sharpening. So I'm going to use Beautify. And if I want to see the preset, I'm just going to make this bigger. Let's click right there. If I want to see the preset, I just click into adjust, and here are all the things that Perfectly Clear analyzes this image and does. So if I click right here, that's the before and that's the after. And that looks really good, but I don't want necessarily all of it. I don't necessarily want her blouse to brighten up. I'm interested in her skin tone. I kind of like her hair darker than lighter. But I do have the option, and I'm going to show you this when I'm working with Amy. I do have the option of changing all of these. But let's just say okay for now. And now this Perfectly Clear filter is applied, and I can use a layer mask so you can see that it has done a spectacular job. Look at her eyes, they're brighter, the circles under it are darker. So that's really my base retouch for a person.
Right.
Now, there's one other thing I deliver as 8x10s. As we all know, these images are, yes, they're 2x3, which means they don't fit an 8x10. So in order to do this, I'm just going to come down here, and this is where I use, in this case, it's the only time I use my smart object, but there's the original image name. So that's the job number, and there's the image name. And if people will download our books, there's an explanation of how this naming system works. I'll hit Command-C, Control-C on Windows. Then I'm going to hit Command-N to make a new file. And I'm going to paste in the name. So there it is. And I could put Terry's name if I wanted to. And from the document type, I'm going to go to Photo, Landscape, or Portrait, 8x10. Click OK. So there's my image. I'll come back to Terry's picture right here, grab the Perfectly Clear layer because it's got everything on it that I want. And I'm going to go into the Move tool. That's clear at the top of the toolbar. I'm going to drag it over to the new picture. I'm going to add the Shift key as I drag the cursor in and let go. And there's the image. And so now I can size it. So I'll go into Edit, Free Transform, and Command-0, Control-0 on Windows will allow you to see the entire bounding box. So now you're seeing the entire picture area. And I'm going to start dragging it in, but I'll add the Shift key and the Option key, which zooms it to the center point. And there's the center point right there. Now, I think she looks a little bit crooked, so I'm going to bring it over like that, and I'll just zoom up a little bit, adding the Shift key.
This is great.
And so there I have my final image to deliver to Terry, and all I have to do is flatten it. So that's using Perfectly Clear just on a quick portrait. And you can see that only took about 15 minutes. It's faster if you don't have to explain it as you go along.
Absolutely. That's
right.
Really powerful. Thank you, Kevin.
So that's just for that's for an executive style portrait, law firms, friends, family, that kind of thing.
Excellent.
So we're going to clear all of these out.
So Jay had a question for you. He asked, why not do this in Lightroom with a virtual copy for the 8x10 and things?
Because you can't. There's no spot healing brush in Lightroom.
Oh, I think he means for the cropping, for the to create the 8x10 version.
Question. That's a really good question, because I am a little bit more conservative than whoever the right-wingest person there is in the politics thing now when it comes to my images. I don't want to crop my original picture. Remember that I made a copy of it to do the crop. And this is so much easier than going to 8 by 10, because if I make a mistake, I still have my original. I can go back.
Sure. Okay. Okay.
All
So
right.
that's the way you work it. Excellent.
So the next image that I want to work with um, is an actor's headshot. And I'm going to bring that up in Camera Raw.
While you bring that up, Kevin, let me do a quick station identification here. Kevin Ames is showing us how to retouch portraits professionally. And he's a highly experienced photographer, and we're so glad that he's doing this. And Perfectly Clear is making this possible for us. They're sponsoring this podcast or this webinar and allowing us to learn from Kevin firsthand. While he's doing this, you can ask questions live during the webinar, and Kevin can answer them for you. Let me show you how to find the Q&A spot in for the webinar. If you are viewing on the Google Plus page, click the play button here, and I'll double myself up here, but when you're in the viewer for the Google Plus Hangout, you'll see this grid right up here. Click on that grid, choose Q&A, and now you can click the green button to ask a new question, and we will see these questions live and respond to you directly.
Okay, so here's the raw file. Am I back?
You're back, and let me follow up with Jay here real quick too. He meant to use a virtual copy in Lightroom instead of creating the new document in Photoshop.
Well, it doesn't really matter if you do it that way. This way, I'm guaranteed that it's an 8 by 10. And in Lightroom, you can only crop to aspect ratios. You can't actually crop. They took it out. We used to be able to crop to a pixel dimension in Lightroom.
Right.
And it's not there anymore. Now
and so your file included the pixel dimension, and it's a finished, ready to go 8 by 10.
And I dropped it in.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the 8 by 10 I had set up is already set into sRGB. So it automatically converts the file, and I don't have to worry about making those conversions later.
Also, when you did it in Photoshop, it created a new file, whereas the virtual copy is tied to Lightroom only, and I suspect that that's not your workflow. You want a finished product that's some, as tangible as a digital image is. It's yeah.
So I've got two more that I want to do. So we've got about 23 minutes left. So let's move on. So here's Erin. This is her. She's an actor in New York. And I photographed this at the Dynalight Studios a year ago. So again, I've gone through using the color checker and made all of my changes. There's the sharpening, lens corrections. I can't tell you enough how important it is to remove the chromatic aberration, and occasionally check this, because I didn't shoot it with a Nikon. I shot it with a Sigma. So you might want to check to make sure that you've got the right profile, because sometimes the metadata gets mixed up. So I'm going to click Open Object. Now, Open Object isn't going to show on yours because I have it checked right here in the workflow options. And the way I got there is I click this link, and these are my workflow options. I want to work in ProPhoto. I want to work in 16-bit because it gives me the most data. And I want to work as a smart object. I want that smart object embedded in my Photoshop document. The way that everybody else sees it is it says open image, which opens pixels. And you can toggle back and forth by holding down the shift key. So if you've got it set up for open objects and you hit the shift key, it gives you open image, and vice versa. Okay. So I'm going to open the object in Photoshop. And here's Erin. And again, I'm going to show how quick you can do this. Remember, I went up, select all. Now it's Command or Control A. And then Command or Control J, and then I do a retouch.
Excellent.
It's kind of slow. So I'm going to trash this, and I've done a preset. I've done an action. So if I hit, and I've got it programmed to a keyboard shortcut, and I can just pop it in like that. So now I've got pixels. So what I want to do is take a quick look at 100%. So I'm going to clean up these hairs real quick. I'll go into the spot healing brush. And it does an amazing job with hair. But see where
Yeah,
it comes over her lip right here? If I just go like this.
oh, that's a great tip. Man.
Yeah, it's amazing. And one of the things that people want to learn about the spot healing brush is that if it doesn't do what you want to do, go over it a couple of times and give it another chance.
Hmm. Yeah,
It's not like
excellent.
the healing brush or the clone stamp tool, where if it doesn't work, Command Z or Control Z and get out of it. But it's just great for controlling hair.
Look at what it just did across that smile line. Man,
I know,
the
right?
parentheses.
I know.
Yeah,
I love it. And you can see it again right here.
that's
And
marvelous.
so again, I'm just going to clean up a few of these. And I want to show some eye enhancers. Oh, this is one of my pet peeves. I truly dislike hairs coming across eyebrows.
Mm. They're like Velcro, though. They just suck them in there.
I know it, right? But this just takes it right out. It's really easy. Now, laugh lines and crow's feet always start from the thinnest and move into the thickest.
Oh,
So
good.
that's how you want to take them out. Aaron
So
is
thin to
feeling
thick.
them. Okay, so I don't think that did as good a job. So I'm going to switch over to the healing brush. Sample. Just go over that. And now I might go back to the spot healing brush. And people that are watching can, when I'm changing these tools, people that are watching can watch my toolbar and they can see the tools changing.
Yeah, and again, this is recorded, so you can go back and
Right.
watch this again.
And then I'm going to put some of this texture back in, and I'm going to do that with the healing brush. I'm much more picky than everybody else. Now I'm going to leave this on purpose so you can see it. Now, eye enhancements. I want to do a quick eye enhancement. Even though Perfectly Clear does a great job, I want to help it out so that it's got more to work with than we've got right here. Erin's eyes are set back in her face.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I've got a soft box on top and another one underneath, they're just plain dark. So I'm going to enhance those eyes. I'm going to start with a curves adjustment layer. Now, any of these will work right here, but I use curves because for me, that's kind of like brightening and darkening. And I'm going to change this. I'm going to call this one pupils. And I've actually got an action for this, but that wouldn't explain how I'm doing this. I'm going to change its blending mode to multiply, which is just like having two copies of this picture at 100% opacity laying over each other. Think of it as if you had an old transparency and you had two of the same thing, you put them together in the light table, be half as bright. So I'm going to put this layer mask now. I'm going to click invert right here in the properties panel, and that's going to turn it to black, which hides everything.
Okay.
Now, the next one that I need another curves adjustment layer. And I'm going to do the same thing, only I'm going to change it to screen. And that's going to make it super bright. And again, I'm going to invert that. And this one's going to be called irises and catchlights.
Okay.
So let's start with the pupils, and I'm just going to drag this down so it's underneath pupils. I want to make her pupils really, really dark. So I'm going to come over and grab the pencil tool, which is always hard edged. And then using the bracket keys, I'm going to make this the same size as the pupil and make sure that white is the foreground color right here,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's at 100% opacity in the toolbar. So I'm going to click, and that's going to make those pupils super dark. Now I'm going to go back to the brush tool. Again, I'm using just the B key to change. And I'm going to get a really small brush, just about the width of the dark edge around her eye. I'm going to change the opacity of the brush up here to 50% by tapping the 5 key. And I'm just going to draw those in a little bit darker. So what I'm really doing is I'm increasing the contrast inside the eye. Now I'm going to go to the irises, and with 100% brush, that's 0. I'm going to make the catch lights brighter.
Mm-hmm.
Go to a 50% brush by tapping 5 and going right over her irises. And I don't care if I run them into the dark area at all. Won't hurt a thing. And it doesn't matter if I run over the catch lights either, because they're already at 100%. The trick is not to lift the brush, because if you do, it'll get 50% brighter again. I'll undo that. Last, I'm going to take the brush and just run right along the lower eyelid, starting at the tear duct and coming over just like that. Finally, I'm going to change these to 50% opacity. I can do it here by using the slider, or wouldn't it be nice if there were a keyboard shortcut? Go into the move tool, which is the V key. You can tap a 5 and you'll see it changes immediately to 50% opacity. So now let's zoom back, and here are the before on the eyes, and here's the after. So you can see that it really gives a little more pop to them. And you always want to make sure you're using this from this distance. You don't want to do it up close. And I'll tell you, I think we could probably go to 100% on those catch lights for this picture. Yeah, that looks a lot better.
Excellent.
So we've already talked about hair trimming, so I'm not going to do that because I do want to do one more. But let's go into Perfectly Clear now. To do that, I want all of these layers on their own layer. And to do that, there's a keyboard shortcut. It's Shift Option Command E or Shift Alt Control E on Windows. Or if you can't remember that, you come over to the little flyout menu here, or you can right click, come down to Merge Visible, but make sure you hold down the Option or the Alt key when you do. That builds a whole nother layer up here. Now, let me undo that. If I just do Merge Visible, oopsie, I don't have anything. I can't go back. I'm in real big, deep, dark trouble if somebody wants to change. So Option or Alt on Windows, Merge Visible. Makes a whole new layer, and I'm going to name that Perfectly Clear. It's now obvious why I am a photographer and not a typist. And from the filter menu, we're going to go to Athentech Perfectly Clear 2. And again, this is because it's not an sRGB, but you can see what Perfectly Clear is going to do here. And I think this is really too much. Now this preset is Beautify, but the nice part about it is I've got complete control. I've already set the exposure, so I'm going to uncheck exposure. And when we do Amy, I'm going to show you a little bit more about what each of these does. The depth is literally the contrast between the highlights and the shadow on the two sides. So I kind of like to split the face in half. And so this is the before and this is the after, and you can see kind of what's going on. One of the things that's truly amazing about Perfectly Clear, Levi, is that whenever you shoot something out of focus, it gets darker. So technically when you blur the skin should get darker. But notice what happens with Perfectly Smooth. If I undo that, it doesn't change in brightness.
Yeah, it
they've
analyzes
actually
that.
They figured out how to make the skin brighter, and I love that. I'm going to show you light diffusion when we do the picture on Amy. Blemish removal, yes, yes, and yes, but take the big ones out first. Auto red eye, none of our listeners would ever have red eye, so you don't need to take that. Right?
Right. Yeah, I haven't had red eye since the 90s, I think.
Yeah. Well, I remember when they first came out with the red eye tool in Photoshop, I had to borrow pictures to teach that with because I didn't have any. But now watch under Aaron's eye right here as I uncheck dark circles. This is amazing. Look at this. That's without perfectly clear. That's with.
Yeah, it's incredible, and it lightens it without removing the detail of it.
Right. And then you've got I enlarge if you need to. I wouldn't. I prefer to do that in Photoshop.
You know those cat pictures with the
Right. Yeah.
big
Let's
yeah,
not.
right.
So then I'm going to click OK.
Oh, hang on before you do, or while you do.
Probably too
We've
late.
got a few questions.
Okay.
Glenn asks, would you, well, and first of all, Rachel asks, which version are we using here? The Lightroom or the Photoshop version?
We're in Photoshop.
We're in Photoshop. We're using
Lightroom
Perfectly Clear. Yes. And so they're two different plugins because they have to work with two different programs, but the interface is exactly the same, whether you use the Lightroom or the Photoshop version. And this is version 2. Right. We're on Perfectly Clear version 2. Here's
the reason that I sometimes want to have just part of Perfectly Clear. So I think it went back and gave us the exposure anyway, even though I'd turned it off. Don't really care because I'm not going to use it all anyway. I'm going to add a layer mask and then invert it. That takes Perfectly Clear out of the picture. Right. And I'm going to get a brush. It's the brush tool. And I'm going to brush it in. I'm going to start at about 50% opacity and just brush it in. And I'll go right over her lips and you can see that that's really all it needs.
Yeah, that's marvelous.
And I'm you know, and again, I've got more if I want it because this is only at 50%. And then if it's too much, I can turn down the density on it or feather the layer mask a little bit more. So all kinds of good things. And your fill is right here, which allows you to make it brighter or darker. So lots of good things that can be done. That's an actor's headshot. I do want to take some time to go on and do a beauty shot. We've got about 8 minutes left. Is that okay, Levi? Can we do that?
That's great. Yeah, while you switch pictures, let's ask a few questions. So Anna said, everything you did before clicking the Perfectly Clear was just using Photoshop. Yes, that's right.
That's correct.
That's correct. And then Glenn asks also, would you consider making the merge layer a smart object before going to Perfectly Clear?
No. And the reason is because there are certain functions in Perfectly Clear that don't play well with smart objects.
Interesting. Okay.
So I have found that it works better if you just have pixels.
And it's virtually the same thing because you made a new merged layer. And so you've got still everything.
I've got everything underneath it.
Right.
So if I need any, let's just put Amy back over here on this screen. So if I need anything here, I've got it. It's no big deal.
Sure. And then Martin asks, since you're sharpening when you bring stuff into Photoshop or Lightroom, do you turn off the sharpening in Perfectly Clear?
Yes.
I usually do too. Because I usually sharpen it at the output.
So just real quick, I'm going to get started on this so that and while I'm answering that question, Perfectly Clear's parent company, Athentech, provides software to many, many professional labs. Over 30 million photographs a day are printed using the Athentech Perfectly Clear professional software that automatically analyzes all kinds of things. So all of the presets you see in Perfectly Clear are done automatically at the labs. So it's really important to understand that this isn't just, this is professional quality stuff. So I want to go through this really quickly. Did I get that question about exposure and all of that and sharpening? Oh, for sharpening, I sharpen at the output for the size print I'm going to make. So if I'm going to make a 40 by 60, I will take a section of the image, sharpen it exactly the way I think it should be on a separate layer, make a print and see if it's what I want.
Perfect.
Okay. So here's some things like, you know, hair just never behaves. So this little lump right here is really, really disturbing. So I'm going to choose filter.
It keeps you up at night, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It really does. And I'll zoom all the way in. By the way, this is taken with that new 50 megapixel 5D SR. Unbelievable. When I first shot with it, I didn't realize that Amy had little tiny hairs. She's got the beginnings of a unibrow there. So.
And you're going to liquify that little lump back in, huh?
Yeah, I am.
Excellent.
Actually.
Excellent.
So we'll just come up with the warp pixel tool and just bring it down. Now, the reason you can see the after image is because down here, I have show backdrop. So I can kind of get an idea of where it should be. And you want to use a bigger brush, and you want to have, if you're using a stylus, that's where you want to be, and keep the pressure really low.
Okay.
There, that looks pretty good.
Marvelous.
I'll click OK. And if you're using a smart object, what's beautiful about it is if you double click on the filter you've used, you can go back. And we all know I like to be able to go back.
Going back is good.
Going back is good. And you can check it rather than turning. If you turn this off, it takes a while to render, particularly using other filters. But if you will highlight the layer mask and either click invert or the keyboard shortcut Command I, you can look at what you've done before and after very easily. So that's just a quick tip.
Cool.
So now let's get in and do a little bit of retouching. So Command F2 is my make a retouch layer. So all of these blemishes on her shoulder, I don't want there. Perfectly Clear can't take them all out. So I would go in and retouch those all very carefully. I'm not going to do that now because we don't have time. So let's just zoom in.
And while you're zooming in, folks, remember, if you weigh in with a question in the Q&A section on the Google Plus Hangout page, that enters you in the drawing for a complimentary license of Perfectly Clear. So please, you don't have to ask a question, just pop in and say hello, or right. My name is Sam, and that will enter you in the drawing.
So basically what I'm going to do, again, it's the same workflow. I'm going to go in and get rid of as many blemishes as I possibly can. And again, the spot healing brush is totally our friend here.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to spend any more time on it than that. I would go ahead and reduce this. Oh, nostril hairs. Yeah, get those out of there.
Can you do me while you're at it?
Yeah, I've got a tool for that.
You want to make sure the batteries are charged on that tool.
It's gas powered, Levi. Only for you. Okay. So anyway, you kind of get the idea there. Now, I would probably brighten these up a little bit. But let's just come down and go into Perfectly Clear. So I'm going to make a new layer. Again. And this time, so that the preview looks correct, I'm going to break all my rules. I'm going to choose Edit, Convert to Profile. Don't anybody do this. sRGB, and don't rasterize. So this is going to, if you look right down here, it's going to change the profile from ProPhoto to sRGB. And now when I go into the filter, Athentech Imaging, Perfectly Clear.
Now it'll show us the proper preview.
Right. See, now the preview looks right. So all it is a mismatch on the color, color space, but it doesn't affect anything. Now, on Amy, she's got really, really good skin already. So I don't need to do much. No exposure, no skin and depth bias. Really, I'm not going to do any of these. I'm going to work in here. I'm going to leave the teeth whitening on just because I can.
And when folks at home are using this, they can hover over that word like teeth whitening, and it tells you what this tool does. Additionally, there's a watch tutorials button down there in the bottom left. So if you're having any questions, you can always get some help with that.
So you can see that the teeth whitening actually works really, really well.
Oh yeah, marvelous.
I don't know that I'm going to do a little less. Face slimming I will do in I don't use it here. I do that in Liquify if I need to. We'll
So you're
just let
better at
her.
that than me. I love it here because I'm not a Liquify wizard.
Well, see, and that's what's wonderful about having all these tools. Again, the dark circles, it's really subtle here, but it's truly amazing. So that's basically what I'm going to run. Now, one of the things I love is light diffusion.
Yeah.
It is just gorgeous. And look at how sweet and soft and beautiful her skin is as I move this back and forth. So we're running a little bit over time. Can we have another maybe 5 minutes, Levi?
I think that's just fine with me. Yeah.
I hope it's fine. Because I really want to respect everybody's. And I don't know why that popped in so bright. But in any case,
I have an idea about it, and
please share.
Well, I think maybe we just need the update. I think there was an update recently that took care of that for you. Yeah.
Okay. So again, I'm concerned with your skin tone. Again, I'm going to add. See, I should watch these webinars so I know that there's an update.
Oh, Anna says, yes, please. 5 more minutes or 15.
Well, unfortunately, I have tickets to go see Hateful Eight in 70 millimeter. And so I've got to jump out of here shortly.
Wow.
So anyway, I'm going to brush this in. That's the new Quentin Tarantino movie for anybody that doesn't know what that is. And I would really recommend anybody that can get to a 70 millimeter theater that they do that, because you'll never get a chance to see it again. They found 100 projectors, and there are 100 theaters worldwide that are actually showing the film.
Wow.
In 70 millimeter. And so it's going to be a real treat. It's going to be ultraviolet too. So anybody that's not into that, I guess I kind of digress here, but you can see what this is doing on her skin tone.
Yeah.
Really, really pretty. I'm not going to finish all this. Yeah. Go ahead.
Mike has a question for you. He says, can the spot healing be done in Lightroom, or are the tools in Photoshop better?
I believe the tools in Photoshop are better. In Lightroom, the tools are procedural. In other words, they're infinitely undoable. In Photoshop, you're actually hammering on pixels. So you trade off the ability to go back for the extra fineness of the tool in Photoshop. So for finishing, I would use Photoshop. Mm-hmm. For just general stuff, Lightroom is great. And of course, I've already shown you how to fix the hair. So I'd fix all of this hair, take this one out, but you kind of get the idea. Let's take a look. Let's zoom in a little bit.
And Glenn asked, why not do diffusion on a separate layer to mask out the hair?
You can.
We could do it that way. There's a lot of ways to do this stuff. And remember, folks, these are the last picture. He's not doing this to every picture from the shoot. He already ran the Beautify preset on the batch of images, and his client chose these 2 or 3 pictures as their favorites, and that's what we're retouching now.
Yeah, this goes into her book.
Exactly. So this is the very final photograph.
And Glenn makes a really, really great point. If you go into Perfectly Clear, so if I make another layer here, just really quick, and this should wrap it up. So if I go back into Perfectly Clear, Athentech Imaging, Perfectly Clear, and remember, this is a 50 megapixel file in the raw file. So I can choose each one of these individually and make a layer and apply them the way I want to. So if I just want to do light diffusion, I can do that.
Right.
And click OK. And then I'm going to call this ECLD for light diffusion. And I could add that. Let's just drag it on top. And I can add that. And by holding down the Option or the Alt key, I can copy the layer mask. So I can build that light diffusion up if I want to.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so we could multiply that. And
well, multiply is not really...
Not multiply, that's the wrong word, but
you can literally break out each function of Perfectly Clear and apply it individually if you want to.
Right.
I know that's not how the company wants it done. They want to do it all at once. But I find that when you're finishing, you have much better control if you can go in and do each thing individually.
Excellent. Excellent. And I think
So,
that probably answered Anna's question. So Dana asks, she's a CC subscriber for Photoshop, for Adobe for Creative Cloud. And so do our programs update automatically? But no, we still need to download the update for Perfectly Clear.
Well, programs don't do it either. You have to go into Creative Cloud apps and choose, it'll notify you, and then you choose to update.
Right.
But on Perfectly Clear, I believe, is there a help? Is it in help on this?
Yes, and you'll get an email about it as well, saying there's a new version, go update.
So let's just check that real quick. This is what you're never supposed to do on a tutorial.
That's right.
We don't know.
We don't know. We'll try it out though. And Anna says, so subtle but stunning.
Yeah, it is. And that's what I love about it.
L Walkup says, that looks great. Steven says, hi from Arizona. We've got Norway, Arizona, Utah. Folks all over the place are weighing in today. Thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun now. Now, how are we doing the giveaway for Perfectly Clear?
I've got a random generation that is randomly picks one of the people who weighed in with a question, and we will.
Are you going to do that now, or are we going to notify them later?
I'm going to do that now, and I'm just about ready. You've still got to be with us to win. So let's
so everybody hang around.
That's right. I am almost ready for that. And where can we catch up with you, Kevin?
Well, my email address is kevin@photofocus.com and kevinamesphotography.com.
Excellent.
So
here we go.
Let's see if I can do the infinite screen here and come back and join everybody. There we go. So there's my email address. And I hope this has been fun for everybody. I've had a lot of fun doing it.
Definitely. And thank you. Here we go. We've got our winner is Dana Kent.
Dana, congratulations.
Dana, are you still here? Send us another question if you're still in. I think you're still here. And thank you so much for joining us today. Kevin and I will both be at Imaging USA in a week and a half, and we'd love to see you there. We're planning at least one photo walk for that time. So we'd love to run into you there. We'll also be at WPPI in the coming months, and we'll have other activities coming up. And don't forget to join us on Photo Focus every day, 3 times a day. We've got new tips and techniques to help you master your photography.
Plus photos of the day.
Plus photos of the day. Each day we feature your work. If you will share your work with us on our Google+, 500px, Flickr, or Facebook groups, we're drawing from those areas to feature our listeners each day. So,
well, our readers.
Our readers.
They're listeners now and viewers now, but they're really readers. And please, if you like what you've seen, follow me on Twitter @AmesPhoto.
@AmesPhoto. Thanks so much, Kevin. And Dana is still here. Dana, please send me an email, levi@photofocus.com, and we'll get you your license for Perfectly Clear sent out there.
Okay,
Thank you all for joining us.
Theater. We'll see you later.
Have fun at the show, Kevin.
Thanks, Levi. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.